Booyah, and it's time for the Game Sports Podcast. It's your host, David McCaig Jr. The Game is powered by 91 Network and featured on Spaces. 91N is a YouTube channel where you can check out video editions of the game, and Spaces is featured through Sudaday and Village Media. The Game is on the hockey and sports space of Spaces. The Game is also on all audio platforms. Make sure you hit the 5 stars, like, follow, and subscribe. And speaking of subscription, why not do that on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, all at the Game Sports Podcast as well. Interact, get involved, and a special shout out to TikTok. A lot of growth and interaction over the past month. We'd love to see it. Make sure you're tuning in on those clips that we like to tease and upload on all socials as well. Now, I'm doing this recording on a special day. That is St. Patrick's Day. The day of this recording is March the 17th. You may not tune in until the 18th, 19th, 20th, first, but don't worry. Just because it's the 17th of March, we'll make sure that the content that you hear is relevant going forward, so you're not outdated with any news. And the Game Sports Podcast reminds you, yes, our core is hockey, baseball, and football, but we talk all sports here on the Game Sports Podcast. And for tonight's agenda, you're going to have me solo for the first half of the show. On the second half of the show, you're going to have Connor Henderson coming on by. And on this first portion, I might dive into a little side topic for minutes, but I'm going to be diving into a lot of heavy NHL content before Connor comes on, where we're going to get into, of course, Strike Zone. Strike Zone's already back. Connor's going to come talk about Canada's performance at the World Baseball Classic and the season preview when it comes to the MLB, as that's just around the corner. Getting to the show, all right, I want to say, I did, of course, record this on St. Patrick's Day, and I'm sitting here on the video version with a green shirt on. I'm not going to show the green beer because, to be honest, I don't have the green beer. I'm going to have one later. But this green shirt is a Scotch and soda shirt. I'm going to give a shout out to 45 Social. It's a business here in Sault Ste. Marie. They're not sponsors, but I want to give a shout out because this shirt is really nice and comfortable. It's green, and I thought the name made sense. Yeah, it's not a green beer by any means, but Scotch and soda, you know, it's still a drink on St. Patrick's Day, even though it's not a physical drink. It's still a green shirt, so I'm repping the green shirt here on St. Patrick's Day. And, of course, there's green in our logo. We love the lime green logo here on the Game Sports Podcast. Just wanted to give a little shout-out to that. But diving into the show now, okay? The first thing I want to touch on is WWE for a minute. Now, I know people may be turned off at that, maybe don't enjoy the WWE. I come from the Attitude Era, and of course on the show for myself and Alex Parr prior, and even of course to Scott Nason and Butch, where they really dove into wrestling really frequently. But I come from the Attitude Era where wrestling was at its peak, where the pop in the arena was out of this world for anyone who came out. Stone Cold, The Rock, Kurt Angle, The Undertaker, names go on, right? John Cena when he first started. I remember when he first started, but nonetheless, WWE has something cooking with a certain someone. His name's Obafemi. Now, the storylines of WWE as of late, because yes, I've dove back into WWE just because I've been an all-around sports guy, trying to really get back to some of the good wrestlers that they have. Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, a lot of good athletes there, and the series Unreal is fantastic, but they have something cooking there with Obafemi, okay? Something is brewing really good. And if you would have watched Raw last night, you would have saw Obafemi and Brock Lesnar, how that's going to be a match at WrestleMania with Seth Rollins watching in the background. Does Seth Rollins see a new vision? I don't know. But what a storyline that the fans got what they wanted with Obafemi. That is fantastic. Now, WWE may not be the interest of what it once was, but Triple H has had some good cooking storylines. Nothing beats WrestleMania when Cody defeated Roman Reigns. That was the end game of WWE, if you want to compare that. But there's still a lot of good storylines to still happen with the RKO man, not his real name, but the Viper, Randy Orton. I almost called him something else there. Randy Orton, and going heel. Everyone turns heel on Cody Rhodes. John Cena, Randy Orton. What's next? CM Punk? Storylines, they're starting to make sense. There's some good ones going. If you like wrestling, tune in. Obafemi is certainly a gem to keep an eye out for. Now, I'm going to transition to the NHL because Connor Henderson is going to be here within the next 6 to 7 minutes, and we got a lot of baseball to cover. And so it's going to be a little bit of a shorter show. It's going to be under an hour. It should be. Okay, you never know. It might not be. But we're going to dive into the NHL, okay? And things that I want to touch on with the National Hockey League. The World Cup and Austin Matthews is an injury, along with some other side topics before Connor joins us. And the World Cup of hockey, okay, the 2028 World Cup is to kind of build on from the international intrigue from the four nations, and that's as per NHL.com. And when it comes to the locations of it, it's going to be, there will be teams in Prague, there's games in Calgary, the semifinals are in Edmonton. And look, there were people that were not really happy with the tournament being in the United States, and those people being the Spit and Chicklets guys, of course, outside of Paul Bissonnette. But I'm just going to say something flat out. Maybe it's not the best time to go over to the United States for a tournament, but I will admit something. It's sad to say as a Canadian, but the USA Hockey and USA Sports are really taking over sports right now with a lot of gold and a lot of hardware. So I understand their point, but I am excited now for the 2028 World Cup. Maybe some redemption and preparation for the 2030 Olympics, but nonetheless, Bill Daly announced on Monday that Calgary, Edmonton, and Prague will be the World Cup host cities for 2028. And at some instances, the World Cup might be better than the Olympics, is what the NHL.com says. I will strongly disagree with that point. But I wanted to touch the point on no games will be in the United States. I know that didn't bring a lot of happiness, but I'm excited to see the World Cup and seeing these tournaments in between the Olympics. It adds intrigue. It's a lot better than looking forward to yearly All-Star games, which are not enjoyable at all any longer. And this is going to be exciting. We're going to see some good matchups. I would presume Sidney Crosby is not only going to be in this, I think he's going to be in the 2030 Olympics still, but this will be a good in-between tournament gearing up for the 2030 Olympics. Next point when it comes to the National Hockey League, Radko Gudas. This is an old topic, okay? But we haven't had an episode since this had happened. And since this act from Radko Gudas has occurred, of course, George Parros comes in and says, quote unquote, we have a process in place that we feel confident in. We've been doing it a long time. We sweat over these decisions and pour over these decisions every night all season long. We have a process in place that's consistent, and we have a team that works for me and together with me that evaluates all these plays. It's a very experienced team and veteran team. And he goes on. But at the end, where he mentions some of the best guys who played the game work for this department and help make these decisions. So our process, I feel confident in. And I think the players should be confident in this team to do so. Now, look, if you're a Leaf fan, you're upset about this. Some that are, some that aren't, because like, oh, there goes the tank in the vision for Gavin McKenna. Look, that aside, you don't want to see somebody get hurt in a dirty play. This is the same guy that put Sidney Crosby out from the Olympics, just reminding fellow Canadians out there, which could have been a difference in the finals. Sorry, States, even though we outshot you 40 million to 17, even though you won the game, I would have liked to see us have a couple more shots at Sidney on the ice. I'm just saying. But that aside, listen here. This suspension is a joke. He should have gotten more. He is a repeat offender. I don't care how long ago it was. He's a dirty player. And ultimately, public enemy number one in Toronto. Look what he did at Wall when the Florida Panthers eliminated the Leafs in the playoffs a couple years back, wooing in his face. He has definitely made his mark on Toronto market. And this Neon Matthews is luckily a season-ending injury and not longer. This could have been career-threatening for one of the best players in the game and Toronto's captain, someone who puts butts in the seats at games, okay? Does that matter when I come make a decision? I would probably say not, but I'm sure it takes a little bit of the conversation. Radko Gudas is a repeat offender, and this is David. Look, Connor McDavid got involved and said he told reporters he thinks it's time for the league and players to reevaluate the process the department undertakes to come to these decisions because it seems like there's a lot of frustration here. This is not just Toronto media. It's not just Toronto fans. This is players in the National Hockey League voicing this because despite Parros feeling confident, Connor McDavid and other people aren't sounding confident, and fans are certainly pissed off. That was a dirty play. It should have been double digits, or why not eye for an eye? Really set the tone. Gudas, you're out for the entire season like Austin Matthews. Maybe that includes playoffs. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe that's a little far-fetched. You're right. It is. But the amount of games that they gave Gudas isn't throwing the book. They go and reference the book and give what they feel is fair value. But this was not enough games for Radko Gudas. And Judd Moldaver, Matthews' agent, sharply criticized Department of Player Safety, and I don't blame him. Everyone is upset at this, and I think the Department of Safety needs to take this away. No one appeal it, whatever the case may be, but this is a joke. This is dirty. Gudas is a joke. Sorry, I know he's in the NHL, and I'm not. But look, he sticks out his knee intentionally because Matthews beat him just like every other player goes around and beats him. Bullshit suspension. There's my swear for the day. Next topic we'll touch on, as I'm going to move on from that, Leon Draisaitl out for the year for the Edmonton Oilers. Unfortunate injury for Leon, of course, resting up for the playoffs. And if you look at the NHL standings right now, the Edmonton Oilers are third in the Pacific Division. Leon Draisaitl is a critical part of that team. If he goes down, is there a risk that the Oilers are going to struggle? Yeah, you have 97, yeah, you have Nuge, you have Bouchard, and players do step up, but do the Oilers have that depth in place to stay and maintain the division? The Kings really improving, just slightly above 500. The Kraken, a couple wins in a row after not doing well in the past 10. They're starting to get up. The Anaheim Ducks is great, and Vegas, like, this is a pretty open division here. Anything can happen in a matter of a couple weeks. I don't suspect the Oilers to fall past and beneath third, but look, missing Leon Draisaitl is a big loss. So make them miss the playoffs? I don't think so, but it might bring them down. And if it brings you down, you might risk playing someone in your division. Maybe you're playing the Ducks or Golden Knights, which I'm sure the Oilers are fine with, but you also risk playing the Avalanche or the Dallas Stars in the next round, or if Minnesota catches up, which is not ideal for the Edmonton Oilers until you hit the conference finals, hopefully. So look, Leon Draisaitl out. How will it affect the Edmonton Oilers? I'm excited to see how the rest of the season goes for Edmonton and how Connor McDavid is going to maybe take another step, because he's already been taking steps all the time. What's this next step that Connor's going to do to really lead the Edmonton Oilers? And if this is not going to phase the team at all, or if it will. But if you're missing one of the best players in the world, you're going to feel the effect. But Toronto Maple Leafs haven't the last couple of games, so maybe not. We will see what happens. Now, speaking of teams coming up the rankings, especially this year, the Buffalo Sabres. We've talked about this team multiple times on this podcast, and they look good. And I'm a big Owen Power fan, Rasmus Dahlin fan. Look, Owen Power is sick. I would love to see him in the blue and white. Everyone knows I'm a Leaf fan. Obviously, if you're watching on video, you see what jersey's behind me, the individual that's not playing the rest of the year for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I got Tavares to my left. I got signed jerseys to my left. A lot of Leafs in here, Greyhounds and some other teams, but mostly Leafs. But that aside, the Buffalo Sabres, as much as I would like to see Owen Power in the blue, I'm going to come back to reality for a minute. The Buffalo Sabres are a very intriguing team, and watch them play against Toronto the other night and beat them in a shootout. The Leafs put up a good fight in that hockey game. They look good. They look really good. They're ahead of Tampa at the time of this recording. Couple games in hand, 4 points. So basically, you can almost say that they're tied for the Atlantic Division. Okay, Montreal Canadiens are starting, they're creeping up. I don't think Montreal goes above third. I'm sorry. Tampa, Buffalo are going to battle for those top two, and Montreal and Detroit are going to battle for the third and fourth in the division. Now, sorry, Boston, you're not wild cards in your future. But at the end of the day, I do not see the Buffalo Sabres winning this division. I'm sorry to tell people that. Despite being 9-1, having a very consistent, lot of winning streaks this season, Tampa Bay has really had a struggle as of late, but this is a team that I feel can really bounce back quite quickly. And I think at the end of the year, Tampa Bay is likely winning this division, which is going to set up a Buffalo-Montreal first round, which I'm all for. But I'm speaking about Buffalo here, and I want to touch, are they for real? I think they are for real. They are. This team has been waiting to be for real for over 12, 13 years. So they've been drafting. They have a lot of good pieces there. Are they a Stanley Cup contender? Yes, obviously. But I don't think they're going to be a team that goes past the second round this year. This is a team that has really stepped up this year. Massive improvement. A lot of young talent. But they're going to be going against some teams that have some of that veteran presence. That includes Tampa Bay Lightning. If you go past the second round, if you do, you might be meeting the Carolina Hurricanes in that round. How will, if Boston gets through, will that be an intriguing matchup? Montreal being there last year, does the 1 year playoff experience really matter? I'm really looking at Tampa Bay here, and that regular season game that they had, my goodness. That was great. I hope that lines up for the second round. But the Buffalo Sabres going past the second round, I can't see, because they're likely going to be meeting the Tampa Bay Lightning there. And I don't think they beat Tampa Bay in a 7-game series. I thought maybe last couple weeks, I've been thinking this is a team that could beat Tampa. Not this year. I think Tampa Bay is not, they're not my Stanley Cup winning team, but they're definitely my team to get to the conference final out of the Eastern Conference. And Buffalo will get to the second round. Buffalo will impress. But this is that year where you get the young guys exposed, get them ready, and then you gear them up. And I think next year they can really take that step. And that could be a hot take. So do I think they're for real? Yes. The playoffs, will they come up from the team on top? No. Do I hope that they do? If Toronto doesn't make the playoffs, which let's get real, ladies and gentlemen, okay, unless Bo Guru gets 2 goals a game and the Leafs skyrocket into the standings, we're not going to see no hockey in Toronto. And despite, from a Canadian perspective, we might only be able to cheer for the Edmonton Oilers, which, of course, if they are the only Canadian team, I will be. But I will be telling you, I will be on the Buffalo bandwagon really hard. And if they get to the Cup Finals and you got Buffalo-Edmonton, give me all of that. Or if you got Buffalo against the Minnesota Wild, give me all of that, okay? Of course, we want to see a Canadian team win. I am on the Buffalo bandwagon this year, especially if Toronto doesn't make the playoffs. Really cheering for them. I think it's great that they're getting to where they got to be. Despite being for real, though, I think it's going to be hard for them to be better than one of the Tampa Bay Lightning, even the Carolina Hurricanes. And as long as Vegas doesn't win, I'm a happy guy, and Florida doesn't seem to be a problem, and truly, I don't want Tampa to win. So those are the 3 teams that I really don't want to see win. And now people are saying, well, Dave, you forgot Montreal in there. Edmonton's not the only Canadian team. Yeah, you know what? I didn't mention Montreal on purpose. I'm a Leaf fan. But as a sports host, I'll tell you, Montreal, they're up and coming. They showed that last year. They're showing it this year. They're looking real good, real impressive. I'm excited for what Montreal can do, and they're another team, just like Buffalo. I don't think they make that big step this year, but in the next couple of years, this is a team that's going to be knocking on that door. They got the right pieces there. And don't forget, Montreal fans, I made sure I talked about Montreal. I wasn't pointing them out, not because I'm a little bit bitter that Toronto is behind them now, but I was waiting to talk about Montreal because I wanted to give them a little love. Montreal deserves how well they're doing this year. I don't know if goaltending is going to be a big problem for them in the playoffs. I imagine next year that'll be maybe something they address in the offseason, but you got Fowler. So do you trust them, bank on Fowler? Will the young kid really step up, or does a veteran presence have to be there for him next year? But Montreal and the Edmonton Oilers, the Canadians and Oilers, those are the 2 Canadian teams that we're going to be really pushing for here in Canada to come through. Of course, I'm really pulling for McDavid to finally get that cup. And despite my jokes about Montreal, they're going to be very impressive. But if they do get Tampa or Buffalo in the first round, I think it's going to be extremely difficult for the Montreal Canadiens. And if they finish 4th in the division and they cross over to the Metropolitan Division, I would maybe like their matchup against the Carolina Hurricanes if they got Carolina over Tampa or Buffalo. Hot take, but I think Montreal fans, despite having bad memories of last year with the Washington Capitals crossing over to the Metropolitan Division, I think it'd be a little bit different against the Carolina Hurricanes. Montreal's more mature this year, and I think maybe they could be a team that could upset Carolina if they get over there. But if you get that 3rd seed and you're playing one of Tampa or Buffalo, it's going to be very tough for the Montreal Canadiens. Now, I talked about Buffalo if they're for real. I talked about Peros and the Department of Player Safety and the Matthews hit, which I thought was brutal, the World Cup, and, of course, Leon Draisaitl and all around in the National Hockey League. But, of course, some Leafs are thriving since they've been traded, and players are thriving since they've been traded. But when I've been watching a team that's had some pieces really work out, I'm liking what Colorado's done with Kadri and Nicholas Waugh. The Avalanche are looking real good. They've looked good since day one of puck drop. Okay, they've looked real good. So, nonetheless, this is a team that is likely still the favorite for many. I know Dallas fans might be like, sorry, one sec. Minnesota, you can't take them for granted, even though I watched them play against Toronto last night, and Toronto really stepped up their game. Colorado Avalanche is still the team to beat. And pretty soon, when the playoffs come around the corner in the next, they're just under 20 games away, when we have our predictions, you'll probably be surprised on a few of my predictions or Brendan's predictions and the rest of the top shelf gang, what we select. Now, last thoughts when it comes to the National Hockey League. I had somebody ask me, where would Gavin McKenna's best fit be? And everyone expected me to say the Toronto Maple Leafs. And to be honest, I don't even know what's going on in Toronto, speaking of as a fan. Are they trying to win? They're trying to get the play. Look, every team's going to come out their hardest and play their hardest, okay? I don't think Toronto's sitting there saying, I want a tank for Gavin McKenna, okay? As much as a fit as Gavin McKenna would be on any team in the National Hockey League, let's get real, I think Gavin McKenna's fit is purely with the Vancouver Canucks. I think that would be perfect. I'm sure Vancouver fans wish they had Connor Bedard. They didn't get that wish, but they might be able to get their wish with Gavin McKenna. I think his best fit is with the Vancouver Canucks, a team that's looking to rebuild. They have some people that they can move, maybe some veteran pieces they can keep. But if someone like Pettersson, maybe you move on from Demko, you move on from Brock Besser, you keep someone like DeBrusk. Pettersson could be an interesting fit in Buffalo. I talked about that last week. Okay, there's a lot of intrigue that really can help Vancouver look at a prospect redevelopment, all headed by Gavin McKenna. That is my final pick for his best. Now, I had somebody then spin and ask, hey, Dave, as a Toronto Maple Leaf fan, why wouldn't you say Gavin McKenna is a fit for the Leafs? And I answered this individual, friend of mine from the GTA area, and I told him Keaton Verhoff. That is the guy that would be the best fit for both Toronto and the player. Toronto needs that cornerstone defenseman, something they've been lacking and expected out of Morgan Rielly, and he showed potential of that, but obviously isn't a fit. I think Verhoff to the Toronto Maple Leafs is the best fit. So if it went Vancouver 1, Toronto 2 in the draft, I'd be okay with it. But let's get real. Toronto's likely going to have to give away their pick to Boston. They have to give away their pick to Philadelphia next year. And they got a lot of things to think about. Okay, so they just got to get through the season, see what happens, and then reassess. But that aside, there's a lot of teams, if you look at, that are going to be hunting for Gavin McKenna. That is the New York Rangers. You got the Toronto Maple Leafs, as I mentioned to you, but they might be giving away their pick. Chicago Blackhawks are in there. Calgary Flames. Why not Gavin McKenna to the Chicago Blackhawks with his cousin? Wouldn't that be something? Just saying. Best fit, though, Vancouver Canucks. And I think on the side note, Keaton Verhoff to Toronto would likely be the better direction overall. And that would probably be actually, as much as I would prefer McKenna, Keaton Verhoff is quite the second place prize. He's going to be an absolute stud in the National Hockey League. Okay, so that has been Top Shelf with a little bit of dash WWE with yours truly. But we got more here on the Game Sports Podcast. Connor Henderson coming on by to talk a little Strike Zone. Don't go anywhere. And we're back here on the Game Sports Podcast, St. Patrick's Day edition of the game. Okay. This legend, Rookie of the Year, if you know, you know. God, that feels so good to say. You know, even though we feel like we just finished a season of Strike Zone, we're now resuming another one of Strike Zone. Okay. I am joined by Connor Henderson, co-host with yours truly on the Strike Zone segment. But the main, let's say the ace, the cleanup hitter, the defensive stud, everything of this segment is the man right here, Connor Henderson. My friend, how you been?
Dave, you're too kind. I've been missing speaking with you. I've been missing baseball. It's great to be back, and we have the World Baseball Classic in full swing to keep us busy here over these past few weeks. And Canada put on a good show.
They did. And tonight, obviously, so we're not going to be talking about Venezuela, the States tonight. By the time people hear this, the game will likely be decided. And I'm cheering for Venezuela. Okay, no reason, no comment. But that aside, okay, you talked about Canada. And boy, proud. You know what? People were chirping and said, of course, Canadians are proud and they lost in the quarterfinals. Look, people, that's the first time we've gotten to the quarterfinals. And baseball in Canada has not been in the same sentence unless you're talking about the Toronto Blue Jays. Okay, when it comes to the world baseball stage, we have not been in the same categories since ever. Obviously, we made the quarterfinals for the first time on the international stage. And it was so exciting watching some of these young guys and these players, the Nailers, Denzel Clark, Wilkerson, these pitchers that are fighting for MLB spots. You have a guy on Czechoslovakia who's a plumber by day and striking out Ohtani by night. I think it was Ohtani, I don't know. But he struck out someone by night.
79 miles an hour, Dave.
Hey, man, I have a chance. Okay, I got a chance. No, this has been a great World Baseball Classic. And tap of the bat to the MLB players and the players involved in this. It's been very entertaining. But we're talking about Canada here. We're not going to dive into the finals too much, but of course, because there's nothing to really talk about with the finals yet. Canada, Connor, I want you to take the floor. First time ever in the quarterfinals. Hella proud to be Canadian for baseball right now. That is so great what they put on, and they arguably could have won that game, Connor. I'm going to give you the floor about Canada's performance and just about that game against the States that they kind of let slip away, let's call it.
Sure. Canada had, across the board, a performance to be proud of. Through the group stage, beating Colombia, losing a one-run game to Panama, beating Puerto Rico in a tight 1-3-2, and then beating Cuba. These are the types of performances that, we've never seen this on the world stage from Canada. I remember in 2013, Canada was led by Joey Votto, Justin Morneau, and a bunch of probably car salesmen.
Plumbers, car salesmen,
plumbers and car salesmen, and insurance brokers. And look, they were out there playing their hearts out too back then. They got into a bench clearing brawl with Mexico in a game that
I
they won.
forgot about that.
You
Yes.
remember that?
Now,
Oh man, if you have a chance listening, Google 2013 or YouTube 2013 Canada Mexico brawl, and at the World Baseball Classic, I think like 6 or 7 players got ejected. It was wild because Mexico was losing, and they signaled to peg one of Canada's players, and it just spiraled from there. But Canada won the game. From then on, we haven't had a whole lot of success on the world stage until this year, where led by, as you noted, the Naylor brothers, Bo and Josh, Canada really showed some heart and some fight. And getting matched up against the US in the quarters is such a tough draw.
tough.
It's a brutal draw. And they were down 5-0, but they made it close. It was 5-3. I believe it might have even been 4-3, but there was a moment where Canada had 2 runners on, nobody out, and a chance to tie things up, and just couldn't crack through, Dave.
Betnar kind of woke up there a little bit, and it would have been nice to crack that off a Yankee bat. Okay. Would have loved every second of that as a Blue Jay fan. My wife and I were invested. I've never heard in this household, don't get me wrong, we watch all sports, but let's watch the Canada quarterfinal baseball tonight. Like that has never come out of my mouth. Like obviously. So to go and sit down in the middle of the snowstorm that we're still having here in Canada, obviously the Leafs haven't provided any entertainment to watch. And despite the last 2 games, the NHL, since the Olympics, has been really hard watching hockey and watching the Blue Jays lose, watching Canada lose this year. It's been quite tough. But Canada, despite that loss, I wish that 7th inning wouldn't have happened that way. I wish they just wouldn't have had anybody on, because then you try to remember the would have, could haves. Just like the Jays when they had 2 outs away and Muncy just remembered how to hit a ball, and Hoffman forgot how to pitch a better pitch. I guess, I don't know. It just didn't make the end result like a celebration, don't get me wrong, but still something that you can tap your cap and clap to Canada, because they put on one heck of a matchup against the powerhouse in baseball, the arguable favorite in this tournament. It was so good to watch, Connor, and for my wife and I to, after little Arlo went down for the snooze to say, hey, we're going to be watching some baseball tonight, I don't have to stress about anything else in sports. It was great, and I'm proud to be to say that Canada baseball, I hope it doesn't take steps back. I think we can still see steps forward. There's the Nailers are coming back, Denzel Clark. There's still players that would be coming back, and maybe there's people in the pipeline that we don't even know that will be coming up very soon, right? But that 7th inning was the killer. I looked over my wife and I said, that's it. You try to be optimistic, but trying to be realistic, which is hard for me sometimes, especially as a Toronto sports fan through and through. You're just like, they're too good. USA is too good. Mason Miller is. I had visions of when I saw Miller coming out of the bullpen with Cleveland back in the 2016 playoffs. It's just you just know, and that 7th inning was the killer. But to have 2 runners on, Connor not get runs, I think that's bad. Don't get me wrong. You're got to at least get a sac fly out of that, at least, or a ground ball to second base to try to get that runner from third home. But they couldn't get it done. Turn up his arm and picked up a little velo and caused some chases, and Canada wasn't able to capitalize.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's hard to feel too upset with the overall performance, but in the moment, it certainly hurts to be that close and to have a chance to upset a Goliath team like the United States. And it's not like they brought their B players. Like, this US roster is loaded with superstars. They came to play. And sure, yeah, like, are they using the best pitching lineup possible? No, but they certainly brought a few absolute studs. Some of the comments that we've seen too come out of this from the US team, in particular Tarek Skubal, who of course I'm fond of as a Detroit Tigers fan, have been so strange, where he initially comes in and says, I'm only going to pitch against Great Britain, and those guys, like, who's on Great Britain? I can't name a single player. He's the best pitcher in the world, and he only wants to throw 55 pitches or whatever against the worst team in the bracket. And then after
his arm, Connor,
of course, he's in a contract year, so I mean, I can see why he would want to hold back. But you've got that mixed in with Paul Skeens now, who in the semifinal game for the United States against the Dominican Republic pitched against one of the greatest assembled teams in the history of the World Baseball Classic, the DR, and played this absolutely, tight 2-1 game, the United States did. And Paul Skeens even said, and I know you're a huge Paul Skeens guy, but going into that game, he said, this is the, quote, the DR is the toughest lineup I've ever faced for sure. And then he went on to say, I think they would probably say the same thing about facing us.
You know what? When I was watching that game, the Dominican and the States, and I was cheering for my boy Vladdy and the Dominican and that energy. He loves slide at home, by the way, too, eh? That Vladdy. Hey, listen, buddy, there's a season to play here. Okay, you gotta watch yourself. Yikes. But I don't know why I'm just so bitter. I don't want the States to win. They're winning everything right now. But you know what? Paul Skeens' point. Arguably, that is the toughest lineup he has faced to point in his young career. And he's looking mid-season form. Skubal, mid-season form. But you would expect from these juggernaut pitchers. They're called aces, okay? But I'm going to say juggernaut for sake of this show today, because when you got those guys on the mound, it's almost like a guaranteed win. Almost, unless you're the Pirates and Paul Skeens. But at least you can know guaranteed you're going to have under 2 runs against you. But what fascinates me is the States, despite having these stars, you see the glimpses of some of these guys that have some of that bad at-bat discipline. Judge, swinging freely. The guy is, don't get me wrong, best hitter in baseball right now. I think Ohtani might have something to say about that. Maybe Schwarber, some guys might have something to say about that. But I am most threatened when either Ohtani and Judge are up. And I would arguably go up with Judge a bit more because of being more, seeing the AL side more. But and watching what I watched in the World Series, Ohtani is human, but Judge swinging hard too. That he is swinging to mash that ball and like it's a playoff game. These States guys are trying; they're taking it serious, and I just see some of that plate discipline with some of these guys really come out to play these type of players. I almost feel like if I was a coach, I'm watching saying, "How can I get under Judge's skin? How can I get under Schwarber's skin? How can I get under these guys?" Make them chase that ball because they will, because their mindset is hitting that ball out of the ballpark. Okay. The best favorite player for me on the States that I like to watch and really sets the tone is Bobby Witt. Bobby Witt is such a stud. Okay. And he's fast. He's great in the field. That is the type of player that is annoying to play in playoff games because he's always on base. He'll steal to get on second, and he's always getting that sac fly home or causing havoc in the field while stopping everything that goes past him or near him. Sorry, at short. So I kind of went on a different tangent there because you talked on Skeens, but that U.S. team is so dominant through and through. And when Skeens talked about that's probably the best lineup the Dominican played, yeah, a lot of these lineups people are playing right now, this is the best team that they've seen. Best lineups that they have seen. And I couldn't agree with Skeens more, despite having a young career still.
Absolutely. I think and for those who don't know, and you'll recognize these names, the Dominican Republic, for the population size they have, this lineup, Fernando Tatis Jr., Ketel Marte, Juan Soto, Vladdy Jr., Manny Machado, Junior Caminero.
30 home runs. Sorry, 40 plus Junior had last year.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He had, I think, 45 dingers he had last year. Julio Rodriguez, batting in like the 7th or 8th hole, is like a 30 home run hitter for the DR. And then on the flip side, you look at the heroes for the USA in that game, Connor Henderson, no relation.
Yeah.
Roman Anthony.
Oh, Roman, so good. God, the Red Sox got something special there.
This is the definition of a 2026 baseball game where it was a 2-1 score. All 3 runs scored were solo home runs, and the pitchers combined for 15 Ks for the Dominican Republic pitchers and 8 Ks for the U.S. pitchers. So if there's one weakness in the U.S., you said it, they're swinging for the fences. They're taking hard cuts. They had 15 strikeouts against these DR batters. And at the end of the game, in the culminating moment, strike 3 called on a pitch that
I'm sorry. You're good. I'm sorry to cut you off, but the pitching, umps, man. Like open your eyes, man. Like I can't. Sorry, keep going. Yeah. Well, he ejected me. I'm already ejected.
And those who don't know, ABS is basically the review system now for calling balls and strikes. It's brand new this year for the MLB, and pitchers and batters can review umpire strike calls. It's not in the World Baseball Classic. So the final out with USA beating the Dominican was on a strike 3 call after like a 7-pitch battle where The U.S. pitcher threw the ball, and it was like a solid half foot below the bottom of the strike zone. Beautiful frame job
Will
by the
Smith.
catcher, but it's just a hard way to end that game. It's a hard way to end a game like that
It is.
with a bad strike three call after a good battle by the batter.
Very good battle. I think the last couple games I've watched, quarters, semis, umpires get it together, man. If this is what we're going to be seeing all year, I'm going to throw my controller at the television. I'm about, in my place of work, about automation and efficiency and, trying to adapt to today's society if everyone's picking up what I'm putting down. I love the human element when it comes to sports, when it comes to referees, umpires. And I know that's a risk in the game, and I say I love it, so all this is going to happen, even though I'm getting mad at it right now. And we just had a segment with a friend of the show and Andrew Palaya, which is a big issue here for the NOHA for hockey. I'm not talking bad about refs. I want to emphasize that. Okay. But obviously what I expect from a ref is that consistency in the game. If this is what's being called, let's call it. Umpires are being consistent, but consistent in a way that the ball is obviously outside the zone. Like you see the view from the camera when it's behind, and you're like, and I wore contacts and my glasses. For the Canada game, I was wearing my contacts. For the U.S. game, I was wearing my glasses because I was out before. And I can tell you both visions that I was playing with, they look like balls a lot of the times. I just need to – I'm hoping that the championship game here doesn't get dictated by that by any means. It takes away from the excitement of the game, and you really hope that these calls are consistent, but that they're not missed too much or in those important moments. When a batter needs to bear down and be in the pressure situation, ump has to do the same thing. You got to get down. You got to see. You got to do what you got to do. I've never been an ump. Connor can tell you. I probably would never be an ump. Okay. Human element's a risk, but you have to be consistent. But consistent by not just calls, but by adapting to the game in a way that your mentality has to be like the players. Pressure situation. Players care about this game. They want to win. Doesn't matter what sport you're talking about. So do your best in doing that. But everyone, make sure you're not abusing officials. Okay, I'll just add that in there. So I got a couple of things before we get into the season preview before we let you go. Salvador Perez and Ronald Acuna Jr. You know what they both have in common besides playing for Venezuela tonight? They're going to be the two deciding players that impact the win for Venezuela tonight. Early prediction before this show comes out. Remember Sal Perez and Ronald Acuna Jr. when it comes to winning that championship. Early prediction, everybody. Okay, but this game hasn't started yet. It's 7:51 on our recording time. Okay, when we're done recording, I know what I'm going to go be doing. Okay, I'm going to have one screen of the Leaf game, yes, and the other screen of the World Baseball Classic tonight. Very excited about that. But Connor, any final thoughts when it comes to the World Baseball Classic? Anything else with Canada? Anything that Canada needs to change, or do we just get to look forward to the future? Or was this a once in a lifetime? Are we going to see this again? Are we going to see this again?
We are trending towards better baseball in Canada. It was really cool to see Canada's coaching staff have folks that are familiar to those at home, like Russell Martin or Justin Morneau himself as the hitting coach. I think Canada is on the rise here. Its core in this tournament were younger guys, like Josh Naylor. He's late 20s, 28 years old, I believe. His brother Bo, I believe, is younger. Our core is here to stay, and it's an exciting time. It's very similar to basketball in that sense, where Canada seems to be on the rise in those non-hockey sports.
Shea Gildress, man. Like, come on. How do you not be good without Shea? And right. I'm going to compare something with hockey. Switzerland for hockey, a team that has stars, some guys that are coming up, some guys that play minor leagues. I will compare baseball. I agree with you 100%. But if I'm going to go that hockey route too, I'm saying Switzerland. So it's coming. People, there's a lot of things to enjoy when it comes to Canadian baseball. Now this year, Connor, I want to keep it simple. Okay. We got the season around the corner. The Blue Jays open up their season against, of course, Oakland. Oakland. They're still called. See, I almost I caught myself there. Okay, I'm calling them Vegas. Okay, I might start calling them Vegas very soon. But they're playing the Athletics. Let me correct myself. They're playing the Athletics, and Gosman takes the mound. That's Friday the 27th. That's next week. Okay. Now I know normally people are going to say, "Well, don't you do a season preview the week of?" Nah, not right now. We're not. We're going to do a preview for you right now. And when it comes to Strike Zone, you got us throughout the summer. I want it now. I want the season prediction now as of today because baseball's trending this week even more, and it's going to cause you, the listeners, to find us more on your search. Okay? There's my absolute reason. But besides that, I want to go around the league, Connor, both of us. Okay? I will start, and I will predict who will win each division. That's the first thing. Second thing, I will predict who will be the final two in the World Series and who will win the World Series. After you go, I will make 3 pop-up questions for you to wrap up Strike Zone. And they're only for you to answer, not for me. If everyone follows, great. If you don't, too bad. Just turn up your volume and follow along. So I'm going to go first when it comes to the divisions. I'm going to start in the AL. With the American League East, the Toronto Blue Jays are winning the division. With the American League Central, this might be a hot take, everybody. Okay? Sorry to people that thought I was going to pick Kansas City, but I am picking the Detroit Tigers to win this division, the American League Central. The American League West, for this, I'm going with Seattle. Okay, I got to give Seattle to win that. And the National League, going to the NL, the National League East, I'm going to give that to the Phillies. Sorry, Mets fans. Sorry, Bo Bichette. With the National League Central, I'm going to give that to the Chicago Cubs. Cincinnati is going to be really exciting to watch in Milwaukee, but Milwaukee will be at number 2. I'm putting the Cubs at 1. The National League West, as much as everyone would probably like me to say San Diego Padres, I am not. I am going with the Los Angeles Dodgers to win the National League West. Now, World Series final. Rematch time, baby. It's the Toronto Blue Jays and the Los Angeles Dodgers. But guess what? This year's winner, the World Series, is coming back home, baby. The redemption, this is the redemption season. This is Vladdy's redemption. This is the Blue Jays' redemption. This is that ball in the wall that didn't get taken out. It's that slide at home that was out, but was it out kind of thing. Kirk ground out to a double play for the first time in 77 years in a World Series. That pop fly that Paha has caught that nobody would ever catch in any loud atmosphere or run into a player. I can tell you if Connor and I ran into each other, we're not catching that ball. I don't care how good Connor is and how bad I am or vice versa, how good we are. If run into you as a human being, you're dropping that ball. But Paha is wearing metal, I guess. I don't know what happened. But all this redemption is going to happen, and the Blue Jays are going to win the World Series. And that's a no-bias, honest decision. You can ask Connor. I have not picked the Blue Jays in the past. I have not done it. You know who I picked last year? The Dodgers. Who did I pick in previous years? I am 3 straight on calling wins, and I am going for 4 this year. And I am going to be 4 for 4 for straight. The Blue Jays are winning the World Series this year. So Connor, division winners, World Series final, and winners. And then I got my 3 pop-up questions for you before we wrap up the segment.
Gotcha. At least, what the heck? Ride the wave, Blue Jays, all the way. Yeah. AL Central, totally not biased. Justin Verlander back on the Tigers. They're going to bring it home. AL West, tricky. Give me the Mariners. I've had enough of the Astros being my pick for that division, so I'm going to try to mix it up. I like the Mariners. Yep. For the NL East, you've got some fun choices. I think it's very split, 3-way race between the Phillies, the Braves, and the Mets.
Yeah.
Dave, who did you pick for this division?
I picked the Phillies.
I'll take the Braves.
Nice.
NL Central, we've got the Cubs, Pirates, Brewers, Reds, and Cardinals. You took the Cubs. I'm going to ride with the Pirates. Why not?
There we go. Paul Skeens is excited somewhere.
He can pitch every game for them, right? Like, he can do a 162 game.
Why not? Why not? He's young.
Put him in there. And then finally, God, do I have to pick the Dodgers for the NL West? I guess I do. It's disappointing, but I will.
Sad. World Series final matchup and prediction of winner. Way too early.
Oh my gosh. The Tigers have unlimited aura right now with Verlander back in the fold. So I'm taking them, and it doesn't matter who they're playing against. They're going to go all the way, baby.
Okay. No bias. You're taking the Tigers?
No bias at all.
The World Series. Okay. I will accept that. They're not a bad pick. I'm telling everyone, even without a bias, the Tigers are a good pick for the AL. Don't get me wrong. Okay. So maybe we can finally have that Jays-Tigers matchup that we've been waiting to have for years. Okay, wouldn't that be just so exciting to watch? Now, 3 pop-up questions. Got the picture. It's only taking up 1 sentence here. I don't know why I'm whipping out the notes.
I'm nervous.
So I'm going to list the question. You're just going to answer them. There's 3 of them. Very simple. Young winners for this year. 1 for the NL, 1 for the AL.
Oh, my God. Our boys. Skubal and Skeens. Skubal's going to triple crown the Cy Young, and Skeens is going to bring it home as well. They're so dominant. It's hard to go against them.
Love that. Aaron Judge, over or under 50 home runs this year?
Give me the over, Dave. I'll confidently take the over. I think he's just riding the biggest high right now. Why not? Give me the over.
Last one, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., over, under 40 home runs.
I'll take the under.
Okay.
I don't want to, but I think that the answer is going to be closer to 30 for him this year.
Okay, love that take. Love that take. That is the season preview in terms of predictions and some predictions for the year. When we have Connor back on, we'll talk about the players and season as a whole. Okay, everyone, you got your preview with predictions. We didn't give you the preview to dive into some of the news. That's for when we have another segment for next week or potentially the following week as we get past opening weekend. But we hope Connor can come on for a quick 15 minutes next week to join. And Trudeau can hopefully join for that as well. Have the three of us talk a little bit of baseball in a full season type preview where we talk instead of just predictions. Connor, any final thoughts for Strike Zone before we wrap up the show and the segment tonight?
No, it was great catching up with you, Dave. It's always nice to sneak in a little extra baseball when it's not baseball season. Looking forward to talking to you again sometime soon.
Love it. Thank you, Connor. It's always a blast. I want to say thank you to you, the listeners, the viewers, all the supporters of the Game Sports Podcast. Keep the interaction coming on TikTok. We've loved it the past month here on the game and for social media. Don't hesitate. We'll answer you. We'll chirp you back. We'll get you back. We love it. If you want to come on this show and challenge us to a little discussion, we're all for it. We've been around for 10 years, has the Game Sports Podcast. We've been around for 10 years. Gave me a little bit of goosebumps there for a minute. That is unbelievable how long we've been doing this here on the game, and we appreciate all the individuals that have been with us from the start and also new. But nonetheless, we will be back next week for another episode where I do expect more of a full roster between Brendan, myself, Jordan, Connor, even maybe Justin might make a way, even though he's looking at welcoming a new baby in the world. I haven't gotten any updates over the past week for that, but nonetheless, another member of the game family is going to be expanding. But nonetheless, we'll be back next week for another episode. And 91N is what we're powered by, featured on Spaces on all social media platforms, audio platforms for listening as well. And again, happy St. Patrick's Day. And to everyone out there, we hope that you stay safe, especially if you're in Canada, and Ontario, or in Sault Ste. Marie, that you're staying warm and safe because of this awful weather that we are having and still having. Again, we will see you next time here on the Game Sports Podcast. I'm here to remind you to keep your stick on the ice, swing your bats, catch your touchdowns, drain your threes, and shoot your shots. Booyah.